Agenda item 22.
Madam Chairman, under item 22, we bring before you a recommendation to approve the transit surtax interlocal agreement with Pinellas County, with Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority. This item has been worked on diligently by representatives from PSTA. Present here today is Brad Miller, Alan Zinman, and Wayne Draper from their shop, and Ed Dion and Jewel White are here who have worked on this matter. We have reached an agreement on terms, and this is offered up for you for your consideration. The primary changes between the document that you see before you and what was presented last time were major efforts at simplifying Section 6, which is the question of the ad valorem taxing authority. A provision for my office to approve the trust agreement rather than it going back to the board for approval. An omnibus provision which consolidates various provisions into a single section, and a major rewrite of the costing analysis that makes it sure that Pinellas County will not be paying dollars from any source of its revenue for purposes of this. It all comes out of the transit tax, and that there will be a provision going forward whenever there's a project that needs to be done. We'll have a separate agreement rather than try to encompass everything in this one agreement. It just says there will be an agreement by which we will proceed in recovery of those costs. So with those clarifications and explanations, I offer the document to you for your consideration.
Madam Chair, I would move approval.
Second. Okay, moved by Commissioner Welch and seconded by Commissioner Long. Tom Rask is here to speak on this agenda item, and I did call you up earlier for 17, but you weren't here.
Well, thank you for calling me up. Norm, another guy, the UAW guy, was here as well. We missed it, but I don't think it would have made much difference. You would have approved it anyway. I wanted to just talk about the email issue. I did check here. Commissioner Wells, you are correct. You have pinellascounty.org in your email address. The issue, just to be clear, is that the return email address when you communicate with county staff is often the old one, which makes public records requests more difficult. So I would ask that you have IT staff make sure that the return addresses are always pinellascounty.org. Regarding
What's the public purpose for that? We've got
for public records requests, so that you can simplify your public records requests, so you can find emails without having to specify, I'm looking for character strings that contain code.pinellas.fl.us, and, you see what I mean? I can explain it later.
No, I think the alias would take care of that, but we can talk offline.
Not when you make a public records request. You end up having to request both, because it could be emails sent to you under the old address or the new address, okay? And I will be making a public records request regarding some of your
I'm
emails.
shocked.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I hope you don't view it as bullying when I do.
That's your right as a citizen.
Yes, that's a constitutional right. Regarding the interlocal agreement, I did send you my comments. This, as I said in summary, does not protect the taxpayers against double taxation or any other mischief. In fact, it lays out a roadmap for PSTA for how they can abuse the citizens. Just as one example, if they were to spend the money on something other than green light, you would have to get a letter from every bond rating agency then currently maintaining a debt rating on PSTA debt before you can withhold money. That's a real problem. All those bond rating agencies have to do is not answer. These bond rating agencies, as you know, were partly responsible for the 2008 recession when they gave gold-plated ratings to absolute junk, collateralized debt obligations and other things. Another issue is it doesn't protect us against double taxation. If PSTA reintroduces the property tax, you stop giving them that money dollar for dollar, but we're still taxed. And they'll get the money at some point, or you'll use the money, you'll find a way to use it. It's a real problem. This agreement doesn't protect the taxpayers at all. As I said before, it lays out the roadmap for how PSTA can actually double tax us. And again, I want to say to those watching at home and those who have arrived that I'm here in my bike lane because I did a 24-mile round trip rather than use my car. And I use alternative transportation. and none of the commissioners do. I will say Commissioner Roach has never expressed the desire to use it or said others should do it, so I'm going to give him a pass on this, but the rest of you do. You talk about alternative transportation, so please use alternative transportation on June 19th, dump the pump date. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
I want to thank our staff and PSTA staff for working on this. This is a very strong agreement. It does really ensure that the ad valorem tax and PSTA levies now will go away. It does that by a number of different methods, including the ability to repeal the entire tax. I mean, it's very strong. And I also appreciate the milestones that are set out. Since we really are accountable and the owners for this, those milestones are very important. And I know that this is a lot of work between the two legal staffs. I think this interlocal is something to be proud of, and I strongly support it. So thank you all for your work on it.
Ditto. And I agree, I think it's a very strong agreement, and it's what we ask to be accountable to our taxpayers. And I just had 2 questions on it, so that I can have clarity. Page 9 discusses who pays on infrastructure, and it says the county agrees to require public utilities to relocate their utilities at their expense if necessitated by work by PSTA, da-da-da-da. So does that mean our utilities are also subject to paying for relocation?
No. Jewel, can you come up and address that for us?
Good morning, Jewel White, New County Attorney's Office. That's actually a provision that we put in at PSTA's request. That is something that really applies to, and keep in mind your utilities in the state, such as Duke Energy or some of the others there's quasi-public type agencies, and that's a provision that was required to, asked for by PSTA, that would be intended to require those entities to pay the cost of relocation, which is similar to how they would be handled on our own projects. The process that we have here in Section 11 for dealing with county infrastructure, such as our water or sewer lines, or for instance, even some of the rights of way that might be used. This is modeled very closely after the agreements that we have with DOT. Some of the joint participation agreements that you see here come here very regularly. So that's a long way of saying no. That's to allow PSTA to go forward to recover costs from other non-county utilities.
Thank you. Commissioner Roach?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a question perhaps for the bonding attorney on this. The bond authority on PSTA bonding authority on this. Just as everyone knows, it's in the plan. This tax funds roughly 52% of the plan. 48% is assumed to be coming from state and federal grant dollars. Is the bonding authority limited to this tax dollar, or is it for the 100%?
Would you identify yourself, please?
Sure. My name is Dwayne Draper, and I'm with Bryant Mornella, and we're serving as bond counsel to PSTA on this transaction. Not sure I fully understand your question, but I will say this, and feel free to ask it again if I've missed it, which is that with regard to the surtax, which is being transferred over from the county to PSTA when received, it can only be used to pay for Greenlight and Nellis projects. So bonds issued secured by that revenue source can only be used to finance Greenlight and Nellis projects.
Right. But the amount of bonds issued is based on the secured 52% funding coming from the surtax, or 100% of the ideal? Yeah, meaning the other 48% assumed to be coming from state and federal grant dollars. Is that included in the bonding amount, if you will?
I understand the question now, thank you. It is the financial plan, which was presented in December, has bonding in the form of TIPIA loans or bonds issued to be issued by PSTA. Those debt instruments will be exclusively secured by the surtax, which is, I think, what you're referring to as the 52%.
Correct, the bonding instrument.
The bonding instrument
And the
is
level
secured.
of the bond you can secure is based on, educate me on this, is based on the ability for you to pay that bond back based on an established repayment or the tax.
Sure.
So if the plan, 100% of the plan is made up of 52% of this tax, 48% of the of state federal grants, 100%, can you bond on 100% of the plan or only 52%? Where's the value? You follow me now? Am I
Sure.
articulating it right?
I think so. PSTA will be bonding off the 52%, i.e. the surtax, and really it's going to be market forces which restrict its ability to leverage that 52%. It won't be able to do it dollar for dollar, and that's one of the tensions inherent in putting together a strong interlocal agreement that will be protective of the citizens, and also to leave behind an interlocal agreement which will allow PSTA to execute that debt plan.
I understand that. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you clarifying that for me.
You're welcome.
It's not like it's a shock that I'm not going to support this, but this is part of the concerns I've had with this along the whole line, is that roughly 48% of the funding for this entire plan is an assumed amount of funding that, as you guys know, exists in public record, even our own legislative delegation would not commit to fighting for. So that leaves me a very red flag for me on the liability, because once, with respect to Mr. Welch, this does not eliminate the ad valorem. In fact, it's written specifically in there that the ad valorem continues to exist and we have authority to pull back if the STA exercises it again. That can only be done by legislature, so.
And that's in.
Correct. Well, they can do it, but that's correct. They can plan to do away with it. And in fact, they can do away completely with PSTA altogether. My concerns on it is responsibility versus liability. PSTA may be responsible for paying back the bonds, but we, if this passes, become the taxing authority and thus liable for the paying back of those dollars, and ostensibly are taxpayers. So they can do away with it, indeed. They can do away with PSTA completely altogether in a special act. But we will remain liable for those bonds. And the entire plan predicated on 48% funding, assumed to be coming from the state and federal, without guarantees, which I've sought in earnest, trying to give some confidence level in this. And our own legislative delegation will not give a commitment to fighting for those dollars. It's a red flag for me. Which is why, if you'll remember, I offered an alternative that we don't even have to get involved with this. We allow PSTA to control its own destiny through its own taxing authority. The state becomes liable, not the citizens of Pinellas County. That's one of the concerns in this. I know there's a lot of sort of narrative around us of anti-tax or or Tea Party or whatever. That's really not it. It's about liability for our taxpayers and a very large sum of it. So this didn't satisfy that concern for me, coupled with the lack of commitment out of a state delegation for fighting for the 48%. Without guarantees there, I don't have the confidence of going forward and putting our citizens in that level of liability on it. So it's not, I'm not trying to change your mind. I know that it's 6-1. I knew that 3 months ago, you know. But I wanted to make it clear you understand what it is. It's not about anti-regular things, and it's about liability to our taxpayers. So thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Welch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not shocked at all by your position, Commissioner Roach. I just did want to respond for the record, since we are watched across the county, that even Governor Scott now is supporting rail and transit. For example, $200 million for a Sunrail station in Orlando for the Sunrail project. So we are even seeing a change in what the governor's supporting in terms of transit and light rail. And in my conversations with our legislative delegation, they are supportive of us moving forward, because every other part of the state is moving forward with some kind of transit system. I came back from the East Coast this morning at 4 o'clock. That's why I'm kind of cranky like the audience. But the hotel I was at, Tri-Rail, was running right by it in Boca Raton, which is smaller than Clearwater. And so we know where we both stand on this, but our legislative delegation, I believe, will support this. I believe Tampa Bay will support it, because every other part of the state is moving forward, and I think we have to.
No, and I appreciate it. I'm familiar with Tri-Rail. I've studied it. The engineering firm I worked for before being elected was part of putting that whole building Tri-Rail, quite frankly, geotechnical work on it. I've studied them all over, so it's not about whether rail is an option or not an option. It's about taxpayer liability.
Well, the governor's seeing the light, maybe we'll come around to his position.
Well, I would encourage that with your communications with, I do know the governor, he's good people. But I would encourage you to contact the delegation and ask them to answer my 3-page letter of a year ago, asking them just simply to commit to fighting for those dollars to help me and our mutual constituents have some assurance of liability and strength. I mean, they couldn't, so it is based upon that, among other things, that I want to lend my support to. So, thanks.
Commissioner Moretti and then Commissioner McBallard.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm not half as cranky as you are. Actually, Congressman Jolly, who doesn't support Green Lake, has said that, but said that if it passed in November, that he would support and do everything he possibly could if the people of this county wanted that.
Absolutely.
Thank you, and that was going to be my point too. And the same of our legislative delegation. They're not going to come out now to say they are going to do something. I can't speak for them. The ones that I have spoken to are not going to come out now in favor of the new tax. They're Republicans, they're pretty far right Republicans, and it's not going to happen. If and when that legislation or the referendum passes, they'll all be on board. And they'll be working hard to help us support that. They have told me that. So, we have to have the courage.
And the leadership.
And the foresight to move forward with this. That's what it's all about. That's why it's taken so long to get here. And I'm very proud of what we've done, what the PSTA board has done. Our staff and the PSTA staff have years invested in this. And we're taking our county into the 21st century. Proud to be a part of it and look forward to the referendum passing so that we can all move forward, working with our delegations in Washington and in Tallahassee, and making sure that we do get our fair share. Taxes that we currently pay that go to other states. So it'll be our turn.
Mr. Zeman is here as well. Are there any questions from the board for Mr. Zeman? Or do you wish to make any comments?
Just to answer questions.
Okay, and Mr. Miller is here as well from PSTA. Anyone?
Just for clarification, not all delegates are Republicans, and in fact, I've spoken with the Democrats who aren't on board on this either. We can just go back and forth, but it doesn't matter. It
But
doesn't matter.
I'm confident to say they probably will be after November.
Yes, and I wasn't going to say anything, but given Commissioner Roach's comments, I can't help myself, so please just give me 2 seconds. It really is about leadership and having a vision for what you want this county and this entire region to look like 20 or 30 years from now. And we're not making these decisions for us individually today. They're for our kids and for our grandkids so that they can enjoy the same quality of life that we all have and have had. So I'm in line with Commissioner Latval and her comments and the others about I am so proud to be part of this initiative and to lead our county and our region forward so that we don't get stuck and fall further and further behind economically with jobs and opportunities for our kids. So that's my response to Commissioner Roach. It's just really about the future, not about the moment.
You don't have to beat each
I
other
look
up.
forward to moving
different
forward.
opinions.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all very much. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay?
Madam Chairman, I would just,
6-1.
an opportunity to thank our staff and to thank the representatives from PSTA and from my staff who worked really hard on this. From here it goes to the PSTA for their approval.
And I just want to thank the staff as well for all the hard work on both sides, from PSTA as well as our county staff. I would venture to say that this agreement is probably very unusual in the state of Florida, and we did this so that we would be accountable to our taxpayers, both from the PSTA side as well as from the county side. And I commend everyone for their efforts and for putting together such a strong transit surtax interlocal agreement. Thank you. Okay, moving on to agenda item 23, county attorney.
I have nothing, Madam Chair.
Okay.